The vast, seemingly unsurmountable abyss is not something that will be so easily controlled. Those in the society outside can send all the delvers at their disposal, but to master the abyss requires a desire stronger than a want to escape with a handful of special trinkets. And among the White Whistles, there is one in those ranks who reaches for a dawn that will come as humanity transcends that abyss. Progress is Bondrewd's ultimate desire, as exemplified in the personal names he derived for his own artifacts. Gangway, named for a connective part in boats and trains, offers a sense of transportation and progress. It is the stairway of light to the morning star, to Bondrewd's dawn, the next era he wishes to climb to, the name one of his hope for his ultimate goal. His origin guiding light, Sparagmos, is a mythological reference to an act of tearing, rending, or mangling something. Specifically, it's in a sacrificial context, and for Bondrewd to choose this name is well in line with his ideals. The progress, the dawn he works for, is not one that can be obtained without sacrifice. Desire is an idea that lies at the core of Made in Abyss, and it is sacrifice that rests in the heart of the Idofront arc. As Rico and comrades aim to move past Idofront and continue their journey, Bondrewd's desire to keep them there for study creates a conflict in desire that forces the two sides into battle. And Bondrewd sacrificed so much to simply let opportunity fly by him, to the point that he is as much a creature of desire as the Narihate on the layer beyond. The Abyss itself feeds on desire. The tempting, unique treasures within draw interest from around the world, but neither Rico nor Bondrewd operate off their greed for anything except knowledge. When asked by Jiro why people go into the Abyss, Rico's answer is because it's there. Nanachi too mentions that even if delvers can't see the curse, they still seek the bottom of the abyss. It's not a rational feeling, curiosity, but very much rational is the desire not to lose anything. And while delvers do risk life and limb entering the abyss, to willingly avoid sacrifice, one must ultimately leave the abyss to return to the family and potential status left behind at the society that recognizes their deeds, that glorifies those who leave behind their curiosity for the sake of what they aren't willing to cut themselves off of. The abyss preys on the desire to leave, as the ascent is the true threat of the abyss. Rico, even with Reg's help, might have barely made it back to Orth from the second layer had she given up on her journey, but had she made the choice to return while on the 4th or 5th layers, that already small likelihood of her escaping would have been even more slim. Her amazing progress is only possible because she has no intent to leave. She made the sacrifice to leave everything behind at Orth on that fateful descent, thus she will not suffer as so many more well-seasoned explorers might. Those who try to return from beyond the point where such a thing is possible will find themselves corrupted into beasts of desire, to remain in the abyss forevermore. And though Zoaholic is merely another product of the abyss, the soul-splitting machine that supposedly renders those who use it without a sense of identity left Bondrewd with his all-encompassing purpose intact, his desire. Bondrewd's efforts to learn the nature of the abyss was at the expense of countless lives. Unknowable amounts of orphans used for experiments, delvers used as bait or caught up in cleansing, even his own praying hand, formerly his allies and followers until slowly losing their cognition and humanity from being controlled through Zoaholic, rendering them into shuffling extensions of his will. But his gains are undeniable, in particular his medicines and establishing of Idofront, an indispensable base at the heart of the abyss. Through those he sacrificed, he bent the abyss to his will, achieving the impossible. The ritual to create the life-reverberating stones was converted into cartridges and blessings, something inherently requiring sacrifice. And that brings us to Bondrewd's greatest sacrifice, the tragic fate of Prushka. Taken up from the very bottom, Bondrewd gave the child who had never known anything but suffering a new hope. He reared her perfectly. Prushka wanted nothing more than to support her papa she loved so much. She's not a delver, she made as much clear when discussing her makeshift whistles. She was meant for something more, for helping Bondrewd achieve his goals, helping him reach the dawn after even the darkest night. In his death, Prushka cries, as she'll no longer be able to assist him. But his revival, as shown from her perspective, paints him in such a bright light. It is that love and desire that render her as the ideal tool for Bondrewd's ideology and goals, exactly as calculated. There was never any love in his heart for Prushka. He says as much when telling Nanachi that their actions in slaying him merely paved the way to her completion through deepening Prushka's love. He needed that love to gain his blessing from the Abyss, and she accepted her role gladly, even from the beginning. It didn't matter the nature of the cartridges, they would help Bondrewd, and upon learning this she still willingly offered to help. She knew her purpose, knew her role to be sacrificed, and as a flower for the purpose of Bondrewd's dawn, the fruit of her love was his to be utilized. But while his plan was ultimately a great success, it was not without one oversight. Prushka, his tool to achieve his desires, was utilized for another purpose, to lower the guard of Reg, Riko, and Nanachi so that he could further his research with that product of the Abyss. And how naturally Prushka connected to Riko, the character in the series most similar to Bondrewd. Nanachi observes in a side note that both of them name the artifacts they discover, applying a personal touch to their findings. And even more directly is when Riko first hears about the ritual used to turn human sacrifices into the material to make white whistles, as she almost immediately deduces the nature of Bondrewd's whistle, made from himself. And it is after noting that he likely discovered blessings in cartridges while studying that sacrificial ritual when Bondrewd points out that even though she looks like an idiot, she's closer to him and his side than he'd have otherwise imagined. Both seek knowledge and truth, one out of a simple, pure curiosity, and one out of a desire for progress at almost any cost. And Riko's pure, earnest curiosity and fascination regarding the mysteries and wonders of the Abyss changed Prushka. The flower so willing to sacrifice everything for Bondrewd had another seed planted, a desire for adventure. While she loved her father so dearly and wanted to help him reach his dawn, she came to want a dawn of her own as well, and her willingness to offer herself allowed her to achieve that desire, as she became the life-reverberating stone that would serve as the white whistle to Riko, Lord of Children. Her sacrifice allowed her to achieve her goal, and she would finally begin her adventure, even in a non-human form. And in her personal sacrifice, she reveals Bondrewd's ultimate failing. Though he offered so much for his goals, the one thing Bondrewd was never truly able to offer was himself. Zoaholic split his consciousness and retained his core desire, making any losses of his body trivial. He never went beyond the point of no return without a way to get back. How much could he stand to learn and discover at the bottom of the Abyss? How many books could he fill with the knowledge sent up to the very base he had established? He strove to achieve a dawn for humanity, but on the gangway soaked in blood he paved, he would not offer himself. Note how in the final exchange, his loss was cemented out of a desire to avoid damaging his freshly blessed body. By dodging Reg's beam so completely, he jumped right into Riko's follow-up. His attempt to sacrifice Reg through disassembling him and giving Riko the weapon she needed, and his unwillingness to put himself at risk, made him lose the blessing that he had worked so long to achieve through Prushka. He does not offer himself for his dawn, nor can his calculating nature allow him to risk his person. And that's what separates him from the children. By putting themselves at risk in campaign and conflict, offering themselves for their mutual desires, Riko's desire to challenge the depths of the Abyss and master it in a way that Bondrewd chose not to, allowed them to move beyond Bondrewd, surpassing the Lord of Dawn. And without a shred of irony or bitterness, Bondrewd accepted this turn of fate. Even though his ambition was crushed, he'd challenged himself against Reg. He who wanted to surmount the Abyss played all of his findings and knowledge against its greatest known creation, an artifact above artifacts from beyond the point of no return. His battle was one to surpass the Abyss, but failure in science is not a loss. All scientific exploration results in furthering knowledge, in what works or what doesn't. And so as the arc ends, he bids farewell to those 4 who were made in the Abyss he failed to overcome, saying that those who will come to reach the closure the Abyss has to offer will be those who challenge it, separating himself from those who move on. Bondrewd may be able to achieve progress for some of humanity by offering what others he can, but he cannot cross that gangway and accept that challenge himself, as his very desire is one unfit for those depths. While Riko, Reg, Nanachi, and Prushka do accept that challenge. But in staying behind, In no longer challenging them, instead offering them best wishes, he was at least able to make that one small sacrifice for their sakes, conceding in his old desire for a new dawn. You can support this video and future videos like it alongside my patrons, such as Luis Segura, Janaea Stewart, Mathwiz, Volkion, Oliver Mort, Matthew Bukikio, Mohammed Hakim, Tengun, The Sewer Boy, and Elias Schmidegard. Thank you for watching.